Welcome back, everybody, to Trent Valley Kart Club and Paul Fletcher International for coverage of round 4 of the British Universities Karting Championship for 2023. Andrew Mather from Double Dash Motorsport Media and John Ratcliffe on the mics for you in the box here this afternoon for the first appearance, John, in 2023 of the endurance format. Talk us through it.
Yeah, mate, I'm very excited for this. Of course, we had the sprints in the morning, 25-minute races. Start to finish, same driver in the car. Nothing particularly crazy. Just try and get as far up the order as you can in those 25 minutes. Of course, now we move on to the Enduros in the afternoon. 2 drivers from each team will be involved in one singular race. And, of course, having to do a driver changeover at some point and some other stops as well during it. So could cause some upsets and could give opportunities to some teams who are able to make the most of the tactics.
Yeah, it really, really does test the brain of the teams strategy-wise as well. There'll be 2 pit windows for the teams to negotiate, and we will see this race ebb and flow across. Thank you, Piers. Let's take you through the grid for the first of 3 the 1-hour endurance races this afternoon. Sheffield A have pole position for race 1. Joining them on the front row is UCLA. B-Ham-B, Bambi, that's what we're going to call them when they fall off the road, because the bandits from Birmingham, they're on the second row of the grid alongside Leicester A. Bristol A and Nottingham A are on row 3. Cambridge A and Exeter A go from row 4. Brighton A and UCLan A start on row 5. Loughborough C and UCLan B start on row 6. De Montfort A and Birmingham A are on the 7th row of the grid. Brooks D and Loughborough B on row 8. Reading A and Southampton A, 2 teams trying to chase Exeter down. They have to do well this afternoon. They start the afternoon on row number 9. And then we get into the second half of the grid. Loughborough A and York A go from row 10. Cardiff B and Brunel A on row 11. Cov B and Brooks B on row 12. Trent A and Warwick B on row 13. Swansea A and Manchester A on row 14. Coventry A and Southampton B on row 15. And rattling through them, Oxford A and Hertfordshire A on row 16, Loughborough D and Brooks E on row 17, Manchester B and Surrey A on row 18. It's a 36 kart field. No practice laps in round 4, so we are straight into formation, 1 hour ahead of the drivers. Pit stops, fuel stops, chain service along the way, and driver changes. All kinds of things, John Ratcliffe, that the teams, especially if they've not done this in a while, can mess up along the way.
Exactly, yeah, not quite as straightforward as the sprints that we saw earlier on today. A lot more things to mess up, a lot more moving parts, a lot more people involved with getting it all sorted. Who is going to be the team that works it all out the best? Looks like we should be good to go for race number 1 of round 4 here at PF5 of the BUKC Main Championship, and we are underway. The number 16 of Sheffield A looking to take the lead, squeezes out the other car on the inside. They're already all on the grass. Look at that, 4, 5, 6 drivers are making contact as they come back onto the circuit. How are they all still facing the right direction? They're not. We've got 2 spinners, 3 spinners down at the 3rd corner. All hell has broken loose, Andrew.
Yeah, that was always going to get messy, and it's continuing to get messy as they come up round the loop. Are we getting any false start flags on that one? No, I think it's going to be continued good and beyond the false start zone, but that was the perfect kind of start that Ami Jurga and Sheffield A would have been looking for. Vishal Patel already trying to cut through there for Loughborough A. This is what you want to do when you've got the advantage. Oh, and Sam Hampshire's fought through as well. Exeter A already up to 2nd place. 3 wide, 4 wide as they go through hairpin number 2. It's about survival on this first lap, John, in these endurances. But for Sheffield A, one of 2 teams now that have provided sustenance to the commentary box. Please no more. We've got 73 of the things we've been talking about all day. Sheffield A provided probably about 1/3 of them, serving them well at the moment in the lead of this race.
Exactly, as you say, it's all about survival. A lot of the teams not surviving that first lap. Now, the thing is, you've got a lot of time to get back that time that you've lost. However, the other teams have just as much time to pull out that gap ahead. They're still going side by side through the first couple of corners. They've not learned from those opening couple of laps. You've got to move for third place. Brighton A trying to get down the inside of Birmingham B there, and they've changed with the lead as well through the first couple of corners. Exeter A now ahead of Sheffield A.
Ominous already for the rest of the field that the championship leaders are into the lead of this race already, as a couple of drivers running wide there. One of them was the Nottingham Trent A number 7. Hertfordshire A have already got a bump and pass penalty. The allocation of places to penalties still remain as they are in the sprints. So that's 4 places for for Hertfordshire A already. Now, the crucial point, 5 minutes. 5 to 25 minutes through this race. The pit lane is open, then it closes for 10 minutes, and then it opens for 33 to 55. There is an argument, you may say, depending on where you are in the order, if say this is your race where you have to start from the back, because once again its average grid positions across the field are the same. If you're in the middle or to the back and you've got a quick driver who's in a load of traffic, do you pit as early as possible in 5 minutes to get out of the wake of those teams, or do you try and plough through to the latter end of the window?
Yeah, exactly, it's all stuff that the teams will have to work out on the fly. This battle for third not stopping though. I think we had a change there through the first couple of corners. Who's now at the front? No, it's still Reading A. Now being followed by the 51 of Loughborough C. So that was the move that I saw. Loughborough C up into 4th. Ahead now of Brighton A. Behind them, the 27 of Nottingham A. So a good little clubman scrap here over 4th place. And that bit of scrapping has just allowed for Reading A to eke out that little bit of time. As thinking about it down the inside was Nottingham A. Got a decent exit, but not going to be able to pull alongside. But I think now we're not going to see the same early on scrapping that we would see in our 25-minute sprint. Of course, the drivers realising that we're going to go a heck of a lot longer in this one, and it's best to just wait it out if the move isn't quite there, and that you will hopefully get a better opportunity later on in the race. Now there's someone to look out for. Lucas Ellingham involved in that pack behind. He's in the Loughborough B car. He's now alongside the 31 of De Montfort A, and he's taking 8th place, and that's now 7th place.
So, if you're a team that's looking at the clock and you're looking at the lap times, there is a possibility that the window is going to be open the next time these carts come round to the pit entry. It's a conventional pit lane here at PFI, so it's not like at Buckmore Park where it's halfway around the circuit.
Do these drivers know this is an endurance race?
Oh, no. It's 3 wide, casually, Benjamin Boris on the inside between Ocean Beach and everybody else that's on that particular part of the circuit. Well done to all of them. They've got round those couple of corners. Benjamin Boris did very well this morning for Birmingham A, as did Ocean Beach from Manchester A, trying to force his way back onto the racing line there, approaching these corners here. 20 seconds before the pit window opens. I'd pit here. If I'm one of these quicker drivers, I'd take a punt on this and go for the pit lane now, because by the time you make it to the fuel bowsers, that's the bit that opens in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They didn't go for it that time. We've got Piers Pryor down in the pit lane. We'll be keeping an eye on who's coming down for a bit of service. I don't think anybody took it yet. I can understand that. It's the first one of the year. They haven't done this for a while. But now the pit lane is open for anyone who wants to take one of those 2 mandatory pit stops across the course of this race.
Exactly. A couple of drivers moving out, looking for an overtake, then saying we're going to go together. No, we're not. That's the 18 of Hertfordshire A, isn't it? Going down the inside. Yep. It is indeed.
Alessandro Cerenetti. What a race this morning in the sprints.
Moves himself up into the top 10 in this one, the Cerenetti. And getting a medal this morning, as you say, for his outright race win. The number 3 still following the number 13. That's Manchester A still following Birmingham A. They're both just outside of the top 10 at the moment, but Birmingham A were right behind Birmingham B, at least when they came across the line last time, but they have now switched.
Yeah, change for second place there, confirmed. If you're at the front, I think you stay out. Track position very important. You've got a clear track ahead of you. You sometimes have to run these races within yourself as a time trial and think of it in those contexts of what is the quickest way of getting this kart from A to B in the next 10 minutes, and then the 10 minutes after that, and then the 10 minutes after that. Don't think anybody has gone for the pit lane yet. Ocean Beach fighting there, number 3 of Manchester A, alongside with De Montfort A, the number 31. Surrey A have had a problem, I can see, on at least on timing. They've not even completed one lap. Oh, out wide there, the number 28. Getting a bit loose. Once again, the outside of, especially the entry into hairpin number 2. Very, very tricky indeed. Next to A doing a good job here. Putting themselves in a very commanding position. Right, we've got pit activity. Someone heading down there, a couple of drivers. Lucas Ellingham was one of them. So Loughborough B have gone in for a service. All the karts are serviced in the same manner. It's fuel up to the brim, bit of chain lube, and maybe a driver change. Don't have to change the driver at this stage. From your experience of them, John, what are the key do's and don'ts as a team in these particular races?
Well, thanks to the disease that sweep the world, which we shall not name, I didn't actually get to do many enduros. I think I did 1, possibly 2 in my grad's year. There's so many different things to think about, and as you say before, it's all about timing those pit stops, because again, if you decide, okay, you get sort of the flag, you get the board that tells you you've got to come in, you've also got to be watching when your fellow competitors around you are coming in, because you don't want to get stuck behind them at the fuel bay. So it's all about tactics. Of course, you need to be pacey as well to keep on the back of the packs at the front, as the 22 there getting slightly frustrated. But yeah, lots to think about in this, as the 22 then comes into the pit lane. That's Oxford Brookes E taking to the pits. So I think we've seen a few different drivers come in. Yeah, Loughborough B came in, so did Brighton A. I think Manchester B might have been in as well. York A, Cambridge A and Cardiff B have all come in so far for their first stops. Like you were saying, don't have to do a driver change just yet, but over the 2 mandatory stops, you'll have to do a driver change at least once.
So 9 minutes down, 51 to go for race number 1. Here's Reading A, who... that's a change for the lead. Yep. That is a change for the lead. As through go Reading A. It is Thomas Fleming at the wheel for them at the moment. Had a bit of trouble this morning. Initially had a track limit penalty, but then on review when it was said, well, he'd exceeded the track limits to avoid an even bigger incident. The penalty, I believe, was rescinded. Very, very good driver across the British scene. Races for DHR. He's now got command of this race ahead of Exeter A. The drivers, or the teams I should say, racing 2 or the 3 of these races, no dropped scores as well in an endurance round. How does that change the mindset, do you think, John?
I think it just means you've got to drive that sort of 10, maybe even 20% more considerately for your other drivers. Yeah, just thinking about those moves rather than sending it and hoping it works, just holding back, waiting it out, planning those moves a number of corners in advance, treating it like a chess game that's going to go on for a while. You've got to try and plan ahead to try and beat your opponents, because although you might send the move and get them on that initial corner, by the time it gets to the end of the race, if they've worked their tactics better, they could be a good few corners, if not half a lap ahead. So it's not just about the drivers, it's all about the tactics amongst the team as well.
You can see Ocean Beach not too impressed there by Loughborough C trying to move down the inside to kind of say, why have you done that? This is an endurance race. They're trying to chase down Leicester A, who had a very good morning. Some superb performances put in by Leicester A, as in go Loughborough C. And I think Southampton A it might have been Southampton A have followed them in as well. Really disappointing for Southampton A this morning. It's a roller coaster this season so far for the South Coasters. I can't keep up with it. They go from a qualifier win to an 18th place in round 2. They then have a round win at Buckmore Park, and then it was back down to 20th this year. Now that pattern would suggest that they're going to win the round this afternoon.
That would be quite the bold prediction.
It remains to see whether they can get these endurances right, whether any of these teams can get these endurances right this year, because we just don't know. We haven't done this format yet this year.
Indeed. I don't think it was Southampton A who followed them in. It was Oxford Brooks B who followed them into the pits there on the number 8 kart. So they're, of course, now dropping down the order.
To put it into context with the scores that we've got in the box, Southampton A started the day in 3rd place in the points, respectable. They're now 11th in the points after finishing 26th in round number 3 this morning. Into the pits comes, is that Leicester A going in there? New fastest lap from Reading A, 1 minute 10.805. Exeter A still there in 2nd place. Nottingham A. Now Nottingham A, we used to call them the kings of consistency because they were always there or thereabouts in the podium. They've faded a little bit, unfortunately. I think they're going through one of those rebuild periods as teams do in the BUKC. But I always remember they were very good at endurances previously, so let's see how they can do in this one. They're doing all right at the moment, up in 3rd place. On screen now is the Nottingham Trent A to Montfort A battle. This is for 9th place.
Quickest car on circuit was Hertfordshire A. That now goes the way of Reading A, who was sat in the lead. So I think they're in, well, obviously the nicest place to be on circuit, in the lead, but also the fact of they're also the fastest on circuit. So you might as well use this time of free air where you're not with any other people on circuit and just make the most of it. But I think Piers Pryor is down in the pit lane ready to speak to some drivers.
Andrew and John, we've been in the pit lane here watching some of the fuel stops go on, and if you notice why kart number 48 had a very slow stop, it was quite hilarious actually. Dude came in, sat down under his fuel cap, got out, fueled up, and then he walked off with his seat insert and fuel cap with his weights, and then his mate got in the car and was like, "Where's the fuel cap?" And he had to run back and grab it off his mate. So number 48, I don't know which university that is. If they've dropped a few places, blame the first driver for nicking the fuel cap. Back to you.
Oh dear,
That is exactly, for those not aware, that DDMN, we also run one of the endurance racing teams in the full National Club 100 series. That's a classic. That's a classic BUKC. You've not done this in a while. It's Leicester University, number 48. Something that would sound, it sounds ridiculous to anyone. It's like, how can you walk away with a fuel cap? But when you're in the battle, heat of battle, and you're not absolutely switched on, that's what can happen. They'll never do that ever again.
Yep.
But fuel cap it's a dastardly little thing that can ruin a race just like that. We've had times where it won't go back on. You'll spin it off, it bounces halfway down the pit lane, or it won't get back on, the kart goes out, and then it falls off halfway round Garda corner of Bookmore Park, not mentioning any names. Howard did that. You know, it's so the fuel cap in itself is a myriad of hurdles for drivers with these karts and endurance races. Unfortunate for Leicester, they'll be kicking themselves about that because they've got a lot of work to do now. But yeah, that just shows how quickly one of these endurance races can go wrong.
Poor Howard, he's not even here and he's getting stick. As you say, it's such an easy mistake to make, but it would have cost them so much time.
And interesting as well, here's a little tip for you. Mid-race, a lot of teams at the at the high echelons of this championship, but especially when you go into Club 100 endurances, will actually be undoing the fuel cap before you even get into the fuel bay. It's a bit tricky here because the chicken run, as we call it, is a short one to the Bowser from the last corner. But yeah, this is where I think I expect to see some of our more experienced teams, your Loughboroughs, your Coventries, your Brooks A's, your Cardiffs, your Birminghams, who've done this for quite a while, will have that knowledge being passed from team to team, driver to driver over the years to say, yeah, try that. That'll save you 2 or 3 seconds, which could be the difference between a race victory and not.
Exactly, yeah, and that's where you're battling on circuit. You're all so close on lap times where you could be gaining or losing a couple of tenths of a second a lap.
Yeah.
And you make one small mistake in the pit stop and you lose 3, 4, 5, even more seconds.
And you'll never, ever get it back.
No.
Here's a good fight. It's probably not a fight at the moment. This is Birmingham A, the number 13, and the UClan number 28 car. Now, I think they've both made pit stops already because Benjamin Boris was flying through the order earlier. He stayed at the wheel of the Birmingham kart. UClan looking for a move down the inside into hairpin 1. This should be pretty straightforward for the drivers from Preston. There they go, through past Birmingham A. Point. Let's get up the road and try and overtake some of the drivers further up the road. The sun's coming out again here. There was a brief concern we had, John, because we saw a very dark black cloud to our right. PFI notoriously hard to get the weather forecast right for so far. It looks like our weather forecast providers have got it spot on. That dark cloud that was off to our right of the comms box has gone away now. Continuation of the dry conditions expected for the rest of the day.
It was so sudden, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Within 5 to 10 minutes, all the clouds just dropped. The wind really picked up, started rolling in. We thought, oh, might see a bit of moisture during this one, but no, sadly not. It's rolled over. I mean, a lot of the drivers probably quite happy about that. It would have been an interesting one because in those changeable conditions, that's where you can so easily throw it all away. But the drivers are able to keep to the dry conditions at the moment and hopefully stay consistent. Now, I think that we're looking at Loughborough B downwards and 14th, who have all pitted, I want to say. Brunel A in 15th might not have. Loughborough C in 16th might not have.
I think Manchester A have pitted as well, because here they are on your screen.
Of course,
Manchester A with the very distinctive helmet of Ocean Beach in the middle there. Lucas Ellingham in the green and red helmet just behind. They're closing in on number 58 of Loughborough D, and down the inside goes Beach. And I imagine Ellingham will be let through. Yes, that's stablemate karts there. No need for the Loughborough D karts to fight the Loughborough B karts. Over the line they go. Ellingham looks down the inside of Beach into turn 1. They're going to be side by side through this brilliant piece of this circuit. Through holds Beach as they go uphill now. Pushing those tyres into the banking round the loop, over the bridge. Next kart up the road from them, I think is going to be the number 22 of Oxford Books. No, it's the number 36, which is Swansea A. So I think either Swansea, no, this is for position. I don't think Swansea A have pitted yet. Ellingham down the inside of H again. Classic hairpin 2 move, gets it right. Upper position for Loughborough.
Exactly. He was the fastest driver on circuit earlier on in the race. That still goes the way of Reading A for now, and they keep setting faster lap times. They set another one last lap, 1 minute 10.603. They've extended the gap in the lead to nearly 6 seconds now over Hertfordshire A, and they're putting themselves in good stead to hold on to that lead after the first round of pit stops, because of course Lucas Ellingham for Loughborough, Ocean Beach and Manchester both have been extremely quick, but have had to deal with these slower karts.
Yeah, this is where I'm sure there'll be some analysis at the end of this race and of all 3 races today from different teams as to what the best way of doing it is and where they've potentially lost time. Let's head back down to Piers in the pits.
So we've had quite a few pit stops, and we can tell that everyone is a little bit rusty from the fact that these pit stops are not the slickest we've ever seen. So far, as we saw earlier on or spoke about, we've had one driver completely miss the fuel bay. We've had someone walk off with a fuel cap. We just witnessed one then a moment ago where a driver was changing their pedals for a while. Let's have a watch and see if this team number 16 has a more smooth one. Obviously, we're looking for a minimum amount of time stopped and stationary. Let's have a look. Have to be out of the car. Oh, a bit of fumbling with the fuel cap. Again, must be stationary and out of the car, and if you're changing drivers, then you can do that. Obviously, hand over the fuel cap. But yeah, so that's definitely going to be a deciding factor in the races this afternoon, is how well rehearsed or well planned these pit stops are. We'll keep you updated if there are any more mishaps down here, but back to you up in the comms box.
Thank you, Piers. So a clean stop there from Sheffield A. If I will be critical, yeah, there were various aspects of that stop where you could see some time gained. UClan A now the fastest kart out on circuit, 70.547. Here comes the number 23 down the inside of the 40. This is Brunel A and Southampton A fighting over 9th place. And that's Southampton A through, and oh, round goes Irvin there for Brunel A. Tried to get the move back into hairpin number 2. Lost it all on their own. Pirouette back round. And again, that's what can happen in an endurance race. The concentration goes. And before you know it, you're facing the wrong way. And losing a load of time that, as we say, you won't get back in these races. It's all about limiting the number of mistakes as much as race pace. Loughborough D, 7th place. Thumbs up there. Is that to indicate a pit stop on the way for Loughborough D? Just over 2.5 minutes remaining on this particular pit window. Now, to be clear, the 2 mandatory pit stops must be made, 1 each in each window. It's not a case of you can visit the box twice now before 25 minutes into this race and then not have to again for the rest of time on the race time. There's going to be 1 visit in this window, 5 to 25 minutes, and then another one in the window that opens at 35 minutes into the race and closes at 55 minutes into the race. A couple of ineligibles to let you know about in this race as well. Brooks E are ineligible, and I've been notified as well that Manchester B are ineligible for this whole round. So if you ever see a Manchester B cart up towards the front, ignore it, because they are not counted for points.
I think Loughborough D and Oxford Brooks D both just dived into the pits there.
They did indeed. Hope you enjoy the coverage here on the Alpha Live YouTube channel. Andrew Mather and John Ratcliffe on commentary duties for you here at PF International for round 4 of the British Universities Karting Championship 2023. The British, we like talking about the weather. I'm looking straight ahead of me, John. There is a cloud.
Definitely gone dark, hasn't it?
It's gone dark again. And is that a little bit of rain I see, or are my eyes just playing tricks on me here in the comms box? Wouldn't be the first time. We haven't had any wet running so far this year in the BUKC, but do not worry, because the next round is in Wales, everybody. Glanny Gores surely will deliver us with some precipitation.
So
as long as it's not snow.
Yeah, that's true. As you obviously know, I used to go to Cardiff University. Every time, without fail, that I crossed the bridge from England to Wales, it would be dry on the English side and raining on the Welsh side. Every time, without fail.
Happens when I go to Lancashire. Oh dear, it's off the road
Big
there.
off, Lucas Ellingham. Is that? No. Number 7.
It's Nottingham Trent A. That was a very strange one. Off the road. There's Coventry A. Pavlo Denisenko. Proudly racing in the colours of Ukraine there. Pit window about. So now, if you're going around the final corner now and you haven't made your pit stop yet, you've made a bit of a boo-boo, because the pit window is about to close in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what that does mean is we should have a representative order, and we can tell that Reading A still lead this race after the first pit window, 3.8 seconds ahead of Exeter A. Loughborough B 3rd, Manchester A 4th, UCLan A 5th. Very interesting order, and it's interesting as well to see, we saw that Sheffield A pit stop earlier, John. Whilst it looked clean, there wasn't any big dramas, there wasn't fuel caps going into orbit around Lincolnshire or anything like that. They've lost 19 seconds relative to Reading A over that 25 minutes, and it was Ami Jurga driving the car. Ami Jurga is not 19 seconds slower than Reading A's driver over 25 minutes, so they've lost a big chunk of time there in the pits.
Exactly, yeah, it just shows how much those little things matter. Whilst in the pit stop, also the couple of laps before the pit stop and the couple of laps after the pit stop, how quickly you can get back up to speed in the car, especially if you've got a new driver behind the wheel.
Yep.
They need to get out there and immediately be on pace. And also, it's of course, they will have done the circuit earlier in the day in the sprint, but you're on a completely new kart that you don't know how good it is at certain areas of the circuit, and you've got to attack full force immediately. So clearly Reading A just doing all those little bits to perfection to hold out that lead at the front.
Best thing I would advise for, especially if it's a new team who haven't done these endurances before, play these races out, don't think about it too much, get to the end of your day and then look at the times provided to everyone at Alpha Timing. Have a look at your pit lane affected time and compare it to those who maybe done a bit better than you or a bit worse, because that will make it really clear how much work you need to do in those pit stops. There's been times where me and Howard have done it before with the endurance races, and it's like, my goodness me, we lost 6 seconds in that pit stop. What did we do? Was it the run down the chicken run? Did we not go quick enough? Did we not hit our marks right? Did we do something with the fuel cap as well? Did we make an unnecessary change in terms of lead? You know, I don't know, for sprints it's absolutely key to be bang on the weight, but if changing one block of lead means you lose 5 seconds instead of just carrying that extra lead round for a stint of the race, which is the better way of doing it? And I think that's what we're seeing in this race at the moment. It is the first time a lot of these teams have done it for a while, and they've not quite worked it out yet.
No, exactly. A bit of a teething period for a lot of the teams. Did you see on that last lap, Loughborough B are through on Exeter A. That's a change for second place now, as Loughborough B look to close in on Reading A. And just as we speak about that, there is the 19 plated car. And they're just going through your screen now is your leader, Reading A. That gap now down to 1.2 seconds. We could see a battle for the lead pretty shortly.
Yeah, this is really good from Lucas Ellingham. Ignore the cart that's immediately behind. That's Anwar Barul Smith, 2022 1200 light heavyweight sprint champion, doing some testing. He'll probably jump out the way in a second of the cart behind, which is Exeter A. Lucas Ellingham checking over the shoulder there to see what the situation is. Manchester A not far out of this as well. Ocean Bates has run many of these endurance races in the past. So all to play for as we approach the halfway stage. Surrey A have got going again, by the way. We talked about them earlier, not registering on timing. They are now registering on timing, but 7 laps down. Southampton A. Oh dear. Well, I'm afraid to say Southampton A have just noted are 2 laps down in 35th place. What was a season that had so much promise. The team were really on a high after their round 2 win at Buckmore Park, as down the inside goes Ellingham for the lead of the race on Reading A. Loughborough B to the lead. That is a good move from Lucas Ellingham, and more like it from Loughborough. But John, we talked about, I know it's still early in the season, but you can't be using up your drop scores in that stage of the season, which Southampton A effectively have done with rounds 1 and 3, 2 poor scores in the sprint. This is why, because if you get into an endurance round and you have one bad moment, that's the whole round done. They're down in the 30s. They're not going to be able to win this round now because they've only got one other endurance race. It's going to be at best another one of those results around 15th, 20th place. They've already had 2 of them. I think sadly we are seeing the premature end of Southampton A's title challenge.
Yeah, exactly as you say. I think using up those drop rounds early on in the season, you're just putting the first nail in your coffin really, and any mistake later on, and that's the second nail going in, and that's it. So yeah, Southampton A not having the great start to this afternoon's endurance racing.
29.5 minutes to go. We're into the second half of the first race of 3 here at PF International. Andrew Mather and John Ratcliffe on the mics for you on your Alpha Live stream. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. If you're new around here and you haven't done so already, please do consider pressing the subscribe button. It really does help us out. Plenty more BUKC coverage for you over the next couple of months. We'll, as we mentioned, be at Glanny Gores in a few weeks' time for the 3rd mains meeting. And then in April, we'll be at Clay Pigeon. Always alternate between Clay Pigeon and Wilton Mill for the final rounds of the season. Well, that's generally what we do. 2020 aside, 2021 as well. But Clay Pigeon, great place to have a season finale. We'll be there with content and coverage from all 3 days of finals weekend here on Alpha Live. What more reason do you need to click that subscribe button? Here's Benjamin Boros, still in the Birmingham A kart, the number 13, fighting with Loughborough C. Or at least it looks like they're fighting. This is one of those phases where you probably just want to work with one another. The working together has a potential gain more than fighting and falling into the clutches of Sheffield. It is a big gap up to U Clan A, but it's not insurmountable with 28 minutes to go.
No, exactly, and they have still got one more pit stop to do. Of course, you can then lose those times in the pit stops. But Loughborough, they're having a fantastic opening enduro. Loughborough B, which is, of course, effectively the A team, in the lead. Loughborough C in 7th and Loughborough A in 9th. So it's going very, very well for them so far. One thing I will mention as well, the drivers definitely being a lot more subdued than they were in the sprint. The messages screen on the live.alphatiming.co.uk/BUKC, where we see the warnings and the penalties, a lot slower than it was this morning in the sprint race.
Not as many things coming through on the video printer, which is good to see. Who's the fastest out on track? I don't know, U Clan A. But actually, the kart that these two drivers are trying to chase down going very nicely. 1 minute 10.7, another 1 minute 10.7 for the University of Central Lancashire. And start finish to go. 2 minutes to go until the second pit window of this race opens. Now, for teams that didn't change their driver in the first stint, to stand any chance of doing well in this race, you have to change the driver in the second stop. I'm saying like that because you don't have to, but you would then have to make an additional stop to change, which would be pointless.
Yes. No, exactly. I think I did notice, of course, Lucas Ellingham still behind the wheel of the Loughborough B kart, but I do believe that Reading A have already changed their driver at the first stop. Didn't quite notice whether the Exeter kart had changed, but they have really closed down on the Reading A kart. A 1/10 of a second it was between the two of them as they went across the start-finish line.
It's the conventional thing to do of you have a driver do a short stint, then someone will do the do a sandwich. Bread, meat, bread, or whatever filling you want. If it's not meat, that's perfectly fine. Jam, whatever. But you go A, B, A, and the middle driver does about half an hour. But there is a scenario that I would advise against that, and that's if you've got two drivers through whatever means who need lead changes and pedal changes. If it's seat insert, that's fine. That's easy to just whip out and pop back in again. Although you never want to be a driver who doesn't need a seat insert having to drive around with a seat insert in. Yes, I've experienced that one as well. Clay Pigeon in our first endurance here. That was a comfortable couple of laps. In which case, if you've got two drivers where you need to change setup of the kart, there's a kart off there without a number plate on, so I'm not quite sure what's happened there. But if you've got two drivers that necessitate the changing of settings of the kart, that's maybe where you go AAB, limit the amount of time where you have to be fiddling around with pedals and stuff, which we've already heard from Piers has given some drivers some problems.
Cardiff B.
And Cardiff B have a small pirouette, but no worries.
Also, Exeter A have got past Reading A on the road as well.
Yeah. Good progress there from Exeter A. Good news for Cardiff B as well, that these karts have clutches now. Previously, as pit window is open, karts will start heading in for their second of the two mandatory stops. If you were Cardiff B and you did that spin about 5 years ago, that would have been a very long wait.
Yeah, basically game over in the race, isn't it? So these clutch karts proving a lot kinder on the drivers. You can make little mistakes like that and the race isn't completely over. But yeah, I only got the pleasure of one practice session in those non-clutch karts, the TKMs.
Yep.
They scared the life out of me, so I was quite glad they went to the road taxis after. But now I'm more experienced, I would definitely want to go in one again. But of course, they are no more.
There's part of me that misses them. It's part of me that misses that thought in the back of your mind of like, don't bin it, don't bin it, don't bin it, because you'll lose 20 seconds or more. Yes, 23.5 minutes of this race to go, as now we're starting to see pits. So Loughborough are in. You can see them tumbling down the order. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. They'll be in for their pit stop. They'll register across the timing beam shortly. And in the meantime, Exeter A will inherit the race lead. Nottingham Trent A, they're in, where are they? 19th place, well now 15th place, John. They're having a very strange season, I think. There's times where they look like a genuine round podium contender, in fact more so, because they got a second place overall back at Buckmore Park, but then they have rounds like they did this morning where they were absolutely nowhere.
Is this Trent A we're talking about? Yeah, okay, sorry, I was getting distracted by the timing there. Yes, indeed, they've been a little bit all over the place, haven't they? I remember they had a couple of race wins, I want to say, at least one at Buckmore Park.
Yep.
And yeah, just not that consistency, not quite there. We saw Sam Pooley having a great race in the race number 6 this morning as well, and then got a black flag and dropped away down the back of the order. So it's been a bit all over the place. However, I guess one silver lining is at least they're not battling over the Prems, they're battling over the clubmen. So you can kind of make a few more mistakes and still be right up there battling for the win in class. However, you've got quite a few teams that maybe are out of position in clubmen this year, so it's not quite as much of an easy feat. But they're having an okay race so far, aren't they? An okay race.
So carts coming out of pit lane. It's one where drivers have to be quite aware, because the pit exit does feed straight into the racing line. It's a long run from the last corner to that point, though.
I've seen a couple of close calls of drivers coming out of that pit lane before. That's Anwar Barul Smith, one of our kart testers.
Off the road.
Just sat at the side. But yeah, I've seen some drivers have to take some avoiding action as people come barreling straight out of the pit lane. Usually, to be fair, if you're in an endurance, you're kind of expecting that at a point, so you need to be wary. I think the one closest one I had where I think there was a bit of contact was after someone had got a black flag and had filtered straight out immediately, and it was pretty close.
So Exeter A, I'm just looking at this gap that they've got to Loughborough B now on the road. Exeter A owes a pit stop before the end of the race. 31 seconds now. Now, is that a slow stop from Loughborough B? Because they did have a few seconds in hand before they came into the box. Now they'll need a bit more fuel. Yeah, 1:45.744 was their pit effective, what we call the lap time, which when you just look back at the 32 laps that Loughborough B have completed so far, the one that sticks out as, why was that slow? Probably because they had a pit stop. 1:45.7 last time, but interestingly, as I think you're about to say,
I was about to say, it's 11 seconds slower than their earlier stop.
Now, some of that may be fuel. I don't think 11 seconds was fuel.
No.
From my experience of how quick those Bowsers refuel these carts. So we may have a bit of a situation here for Loughborough B, who I presume have also changed driver, because Lucas Ellingham had gone from the start. Is this race now open for the likes of Exeter A and Reading A, Manchester A there on your screens, to take advantage of this and take the first endurance race win of the year?
Exactly, and is that secondary driver who jumps in after Lucas Ellingham going to have the same pace? And secondarily to that, how quickly are they going to be able to get up to that same pace as Lucas Ellingham had previously?
UClan A just completed their pit stop. Pit effective lap time 1:38.7. So I think we're calling that Loughborough B have had a slow pit stop. Door open for Exeter A and Reading A. In fact, there's been a change here for second place. Manchester A have got past Reading A on the road. Both of them go round again. But this now sticks the pressure on those teams that we've just talked about. It's just as easy for them to make a mistake as whatever's befallen Loughborough B.
Exactly. That was the 36 emerging from the pit lane. That's Swansea A. They come back out in 20th place.
Lutherby now up to 6th place. Track limit warning for the number 13 of Birmingham A, currently in 14th place out there on the circuit.
To be fair, I think that gap between Exeter A and Loughborough B hasn't changed massively since they came out of the pit, has it? Maybe half a second between the two of them. So although they've had a slow stop, I think the secondary driver in the kart has got up to pace pretty quickly.
Good pace being put in by these two drivers at the moment. As oh no, that's Exeter A. Now what's happened to Exeter A? Because all of a sudden 1.5 seconds has disappeared. Sam Hampshire's gone in.
He had to
now,
do that.
was that a mistake? Was that a communication error? Whatever it was, Exeter A, all of a sudden, I think that's a smart move to get it in.
Had to, yeah, had to.
And not get him entailed in this battle. But now we see, right, let's see, we've got two big things happening on circuit at the moment. You've got this on your screens at home and around the circuit on the big screen here. Manchester A versus Reading A for the lead on the road and possibly now for the lead once these pit stops shake out. Where are Exeter A going to serve out from? They're out. They're out in 3rd. That shows you how much time Loughborough B have lost. Loughborough B have lost some 11 seconds in relation to Exeter A on the road. But now let's concentrate on this battle.
Yeah, wow, that was a 1 minute 31.9.
That's more like
that
it, yeah.
Incredibly fast.
About 20-25 seconds of time loss is what I would expect round here at PFI for a Club 100 service.
See, do any of these drivers decide to come into the pit lane? Nope. Staying out once again on Manchester A and Reading A.
So if we're looking at 20 seconds, 19.3 seconds is the gap between Manchester A and Exeter A at the moment. And right, so that looks like an indication of Manchester A and Ocean Beach is coming in on this lap. I like, once again, what Manchester and Reading have done here. It would have been very easy, I think, John, to get in a battle here and be like, I'm going to fight you for this P1 and lose time. They're not actually in a race with each other 1v1 at the moment. They're 2 versus Exeter A.
Penalty for Reading A. Track limits penalty, so there's not a chance that they can win it now.
Outlap's going to be big here as well. Exeter A did a 1 minute 13.6 on their outlap, so the gap is now up to 22 seconds.
Again, that's that being able to get up to pace as quickly as possible. Exeter A just finding that a little bit more tricky. So will we see it? It looked like Ocean Beach was saying, yep, I'm cool to come in this lap. Will we see him pull straight into the pit lane? Looks like he's looking forward to see whether there's anyone else in at the moment, and he is diving straight in.
Here it is then, race on the line for Manchester A. Loughborough B have made mistakes. Exeter A have made some mistakes. Reading A continue on.
And that gap as they went in, 22 seconds. So if Manchester can nail this pit stop, they could come out in the lead here. Or the effective lead, I should say.
Reading A driver looking confused there as to what the penalty was for. We'll know at the end of this race that it was for exceeding track limits too many times. We wait to see. Once there's a clock, a time on Manchester A, it's 0.000 at the moment. Once they cross the beam and give us a time, we'll know, are they ahead of Exeter or not? There are Exeter, there are Manchester. Exeter have got ahead. Exeter A retakes 2nd place and now effectively the race lead, not just because Reading A have owe us a pit stop, but they have a penalty as well. Big, big moment there for Exeter A. Let's head down to Piers Pryor, who I believe has Manchester's Ocean Beach.
So we've managed to catch up with Manchester A, Ocean Beach. That was a pretty good stint.
All right, where was I? I don't know.
I did a pretty good stint.
Yeah, it was good. It was. I didn't quite have the pace, but I was quite nice and consistent, so quite happy with that.
Your pit stops seem pretty strong as well. I was mentioning just a moment ago that it looks like everyone's a little bit rusty on the pit stops. They've been a bit fumbly and generally a bit slow, but yours looks okay.
Well, for an old boy like me, 5 years in the VUKC, it's it felt. I mean, it's simple. You just have to get the basics right, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Get the basics right. And your teammate out on circuit, how's he been going so far today?
Well, I mean, his wheel came off in the first race, so we'll see what happens this race.
Anyway, good luck in the rest of the race. Right. Well done. Yeah, all good up here. So back to you in the comms.
Great to hear from Ocean Beach there, as Piers said, a fantastic stint in the kart, and a decent pit stop as well. It was a 1 minute 35 in the end for that lap where they had the pit stop. They've emerged third on the road, but we're still waiting on Reading A to take that final pit stop. They've still got just over 22 seconds in the lead over Exeter. A nice little gap, but they'll again have to nail the pit stop. They've already done a driver change, so no need to do that, but they may still be putting in another driver for the final stints. Oh, that's a lot of contact there. And the driver realising so, putting his hand up to apologise.
And they probably don't know, but that was on your effective race leader. That was the number 59, a lap down, getting into the rear of the two. That will have been a heart-in-mouth moment for X-Ray again. Wouldn't necessarily have this in a sprint race where karts have been going round for 48 minutes and all of a sudden you're coming across back markers who aren't aware of who you are and what the general race situation is, and mistakes can happen. It's
just like Ocean was saying when he got out of the car, he was like, I don't know, where was I? I have no idea. I'm just driving around as fast as I can, overtaking everyone that I see, and we'll just see what happens by the time it gets to the end of an hour.
No team radios generally with these teams, running on the tight budgets. Something you sometimes see in Club 100 endurance racing, but generally in BUKC, it's just drive around there and go as fast as you can without making too many mistakes. So Reading A have completed their pit stop. They are in the lead on the road, but remember they have a penalty. So Exeter A is still on for 60 points here. But that must have been a lightning pit stop for Reading A. 131. Very good indeed. There, you can see the number 44 having a go. Cafe out there as well. Coventry B and Loughborough A fighting here over 14th place.
Loughborough A tried it down at the pond section, under the bridge and into the left-hander. Thought better of it as they got to the apex. Just managed to back out of it. Thought they were going to go for it again there down into hairpin one, but once again thought better of it. Sticking behind Southgate for now in that 49-plated Coventry B kart. But we're closing in on the last 10 minutes of this race.
We are indeed. Not a lot of time for drivers to sort themselves out. In there would be 44, just a little bit off the pace at the moment, the Southampton B kart.
Who are we still waiting on a secondary pit stop from then? Oxford Brookes E, definitely one of them in third.
Who are ineligible, we're led to believe, in this race. So all the key players are in the bouts there. But I think it serves well for the rest of the afternoon of these races being nice and open. We'll look at those teams in the top 8. Take out Brookes E because, as mentioned, they're ineligible. I don't think any of these teams have had a perfect run through this 1 hour endurance so far. Curb warning for the number 24 of Coventry A.
You can see how much that wasted bit of time in the pit stop has affected Loughborough B. They now jump up ahead of Oxford Brookes E and Sheffield A as they pull into the pits. I think we're still waiting on a pit stop from UClan A, aren't we, in 4th place, I want to say. Or is that where they are on the road?
I have to check that. We'll see if we've got 2 pit-affected lap time. That's probably the best way of doing that. There is a white flag out there. Sheffield A re-emerged from their pit stops. Yeah, they've got some work to do, I think, Sheffield A, on their pit stops.
Yeah, they have done both of them.
OK, good work from University of Central Lancashire.
So that's that wasted time in the pit stop has dropped Loughborough B all the way down to what is now 5th then.
Yep. Sheffield A re-emerge at 1 minute 43. Yeah, work to do.
Brilliant
work to do for Sheffield to get their pit stops. I reckon they've lost 25 seconds in this race in the pit stops. 9 minutes to go. There's the number 34 of Reading A. Thomas Fleming back at the wheel. He's done many a lap round this circuit in the years gone by, coming up through the ranks of club karting and British Championships.
UClan A have just overtaken Manchester A for 3rd place.
Yeah, it's a battle of the Northwest universities there. Good work from UClan A. It'll be frustrating this for Reading. And I know there's a debate sometimes as to whether the penalties should be places in endurances. We all like a good rules debate, but it's the same for everyone. And it's a big part of the challenge to keep running through these races clean. Still be on for a very good position, of course, even with the track limits penalty applied. Reading A started this race 17th on the grid. Won't be in race number 2, but will be in race number 3. It's a good start for them. And again, it sets them up nicely for another good round score if they can get some good results. We haven't seen Ross Deal in this race, for example. We know he's got pace here today.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. We're interested to see how they're able to do later on. And to reiterate as well, for these Enduros in the afternoon, no dropped rounds. So no races where you can go, oh yeah, we messed it up in that one, but don't worry, we'll forget about that one and move on to the next. No.
Yep.
All of the results count. So you can't be making those silly mistakes. Got to keep consistent. And the race will come to you.
There are UCLan A.
Yes.
This could be a really big result for their season. You know, they started this round provisionally 16th, I think it was. So not bad, but we'll be looking to move up into the top 10, I think.
Definitely. They've already cleared Loughborough by a second.
Yeah, flying.
They're looking really quick. Another one to watch out for, Loughborough C, Oxford Brookes E and Hertfordshire A, all within a second from 7th to 9th as well. Hertfordshire A still setting fastest laps. They did a 1 minute 10.224 last time around. As just as I say that, Reading A now set the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 10.158 for Thomas Fleming. He was definitely the faster of the 2 Reading drivers out on circuit so far in this race. However, it doesn't take anything away from the secondary driver. It's all about being consistent and keeping yourself at the front to give Thomas Fleming the opportunity to pull away once he get in. And that's exactly what they've done.
Indeed. Keep your comments coming in. Again, apologies for not being able to track them as much today. Just a bit of a bandwidth issues. Oh, hello. Hello, DJ.
Hello, DJ.
Go Flendog. He interrupted me earlier.
He
Or
did.
I interrupt
It was
him?
very rude.
I think it was me interrupting him. Never mind. Johnny Elliott says, good job, but Anwar is on track. He needs the track time. He does. Has standards to upkeep. And Rob Smith, one of our testers here, Joe Holmes, here today, who he'll probably chase me around the paddock for saying this, but my introduction this morning to Joe in the paddock, you know, a quick breather just before you go on the air. Cubicle opens, there comes Joe Holmes, multiple Club 100 sprints champion. He goes, be careful with that one, block drain, flush don't work. It's like, morning Joe. Off to work he goes. Aside from the toilet humour, if you want to watch Joe and Anwar in action, this is the weirdest segue I've done in a while. Club 100 Sprints Championship, end of the month, here on Alpha Live, from Buckmore Park. Adam Chapman's sat to my right through the glass window, wetting himself now. Only from DDMM do you get these kind of promos. That is going to get you another 100 viewers, guaranteed.
I think that should be used in the official Club 100 promo.
Coventry P have got a contacts warning, number 49. They probably heard the story and were so shocked they hit someone into hairpin one. I don't know. If you haven't watched one of these endurance races before, folks, this is what it gets like.
Yes. We start talking about random rubbish. It's brilliant.
Discussions that we've had round the paddock today. 4 minutes, or just over 4 minutes to go. 8 seconds is the lead on the road for Reading A, but remember, they have a penalty.
Indeed. So we saw in the morning Exeter had a really, really good start. They're going to do the same this afternoon. Looking like they'll take the win here. Although I don't want a commentator's curse, and we've still got 3.5 minutes to go, but it is looking good for Exeter A to start off another round
Yeah.
really, really well.
They can't, to be clear, they can't win the championship here today. Can't mathematically do it, but they can put themselves in a position where they could do at Glannygores, which would be remarkable. Again, I'll repeat, they've been in this position before. They were in it in 2019. And the championship wins column for Exeter A still reads today 0. They were very close last year as well. But surely Exeter A will never get a better opportunity to win a British Universities karting championship than here with this form in 2023. Curb penalty. Don't think I've seen that one so far today. It's for Warwick B. Stop touching those curbs, Warwick B. Is the number 22 on your screen. It's Oxford Brooks E. It's not an eligible kart. They have got for a bit of fun. Loughborough C just behind them. 8th and 9th on the road. And I say, Loughborough, okay, I've been critical of their team selections and who they put in the A, who they put in the B. Is that the B or is it the A? It's all been a mess this season. This is the first time I'll say they really have got something right. Look at that top 10. 3 Loughborough karts in the top 10. Passage of experience from team to team. They've had some very good teams, of course. That's why they're multiple-time champions. And I'm sure they'll be in the mix to win again in future years. Still got it when it comes to endurances to deliver good results. Curb warning for Brooksy, the number 22. Less than 2 minutes to go. Here the fight on your screen. This is for just out. Well, this is the outskirts of the top 10. This is 10th versus 11th. Loughborough A and Brighton A. Took a bit of a strike earlier, John, after I said Brighton always do really well at PFI, and then they had a bit of a stinker this morning.
Is that the commentator's curse coming back again?
Well, we've only got 73
happens.
of the JCs in the box here. You know, Brighton, you should have made it 100, but you didn't, so you got cursed. Been having a good race here, scrapping away with Loughborough A. For another round point, just over a minute to go.
Here is your effective leader, the number 2 plated Exeter A kart, coming round the final section of corners. And is this to start the final lap? It is indeed. I
yes,
think Reading
it is,
A
yes.
will have just started it, won't they, on the road? So one more lap of this Paul Fletcher International Circuit to complete. As you say, Reading A with just over 10 seconds in the lead. They've been very, very impressive, but getting that penalty earlier. Of course, it being a longer race, you have a longer opportunity to get those penalties.
They shouldn't relax too much because UClan are there.
Yeah,
number
fair
28, 8/10 behind. They've got the Brunel kart ahead to deal with as traffic. This race isn't done, folks. Reading A may have it on the road, but have a track limits penalty. Exeter A. Oh, we've seen these go wrong previously.
Any sort
5
of
seconds
little
on the
mistake,
clock.
any sort of little mistake, and UClan are going to be all over.
Yeah. Going to be right in there. The good news is that Brunel A kart is not slow. It needs to get up alongside. Okay, that should be fine now, because UClan will need to get through.
Yep.
UClan A have got through. Here comes Thomas Fleming round the final corner. Takes it on the road, but has a penalty. It's going to be very close here between Exeter A and UClan A. Who's going to get second place and inherit the 60 points once the penalties are applied? It's Exeter. Exeter A, championship leaders, take another full complement of points. UClan A, third, fourth for Loughborough B there. Manchester A will come along in fifth. Good run from Hertfordshire A. Rolling back the years, last won a BUKC championship 10 years ago. In this endurance, they're the first clubman team home there. Alessandro Serenetti has had a good day. Beats Brooks B to the line there in 7th. Brooks here in ineligible, so get rid of them. And then it's 2 Loughborough karts up next. C followed in by A. Brighton A will get points at least for a top 10 finish, if not on the road. They'll finish 11th on the road. Coventry B 12th, Birmingham A 13th, Sheffield A 14th. These are all teams that I think will look back at this and go, ooh, we've got some lessons to be learnt after this, because they all should have had the pace, well, they did have the pace to be up in the top 5, but they didn't have the pit stop strategy to back it up. Nottingham A 15th, De Montfort A 16th, Bristol A 17th, Loughborough D 18th, 19th for Cambridge A, and Coventry A completing the top 20. Good endurance race that, John. A good degree of intrigue through it, different strategies, teams not getting the pit stop practice right, and a very close finish there between Exeter and UCLan.
Yeah, indeed. A lot of respectful racing there, which is good to see. But once again, those penalties really coming into effect. Reading A having a really good race, winning by over 10 seconds. But because you made a little mistake earlier on, you're not able to claim that actual full points tally from the opening enduro of this afternoon. As you say, I was very impressed with UCLan at the end then,
Yeah,
nearly
really good.
getting it from Exeter A. Very impressive.
Good.